Okay, so for those who didn't know, last weekend I went to Seattle because one of my all-time favorite bands, Don't Know, was doing a reunion. I never got to see them play because they were basically broken up by the time I discovered them. So it was like now or never. So I went ahead and went out there just to see them. And I figured I would detail my trip because it was so zany. There were so many weird things that happened on this trip. I thought it'd be fun to make a quick video about it. Picked up some non-alcoholic brew, Athletic Brewing Company. Never heard of them, but we'll see if this is any good. It's basically American Heineken. Anyway, so the trip began. Since I work overnight, basically I had to push my sleep schedule as far back as I could, so I had set to wake up at midnight. So I woke up at midnight, quickly jumped in, took a shower, and went to work. Worked all morning long. And then when I got off work, came home, changed clothes, and then me and the missus went to the airport and she dropped me off. So I go through security and all that good stuff. My bag got flagged. TSA agent had to do a thorough search of my bag. And it turned out that you're not allowed to bring safety razors along with a blade on a flight. I had thought that I heard that as long as you have one single blade that's installed in the razor, you're good to go. You just can't bring refills or what have you. So that was a no-go. And so she had to toss the blade, which I was a little perturbed about. And then she also didn't like the fact that I had a full actual toothpaste tube. Has to be a travel size because Lord knows we're going to put bombs in a freaking tube of toothpaste. So luckily the missus was on the other side of security. So I called her over and we just tossed it to her over the gate. As a side note, if we can actually get a person to run for president, a nominee who will abolish the TSA, that would be fantastic because the TSA is just nothing but political theater. They don't do anything. They don't offer any sort of measurable effect. It's just all theater. The sooner that we can dismantle all these checkpoints and remove them from the airports permanently, the better. So after I got done with that nonsense, I go and I sit down and I pulled out the old music player, was listening to the music, and I was looking at the guy next to me. He was eating a pizza, and I was like, I could go for some lunch right now. I worked all night long, didn't have a breakfast, didn't do anything. I could go for some lunch right now. It was actually breakfast time, but anyway, I could go for some breakfast right now. So I go to get up, and I go to grab my wallet. That's when I noticed I don't have my wallet. Okay, I had my wallet when I got here because I pulled my ID out to show the TSA guy. So I go all the way back to TSA. Apparently, when they pulled my bin out to do a second check and they, were pilfering through everything, they had the wallet had fallen out of the bin or something. Anywho, they had the wallet, so they were able to give it back to me, but that would have been a complete disaster if for some idiotic reason they either gave the wallet to the wrong person or something. So luckily I was able to get my wallet and I was able to get on my way. And so we load up on the plane and we're off to Las Vegas. So we land in Las Vegas. I had about a 2-hour layover. I was like, well, I got some time. I'm going to see if I can get something to eat now because I actually didn't get anything to eat in Tulsa because of the whole wallet fiasco. I had to go all the way back to TSA and flag somebody down and had them look for the wallet. So wasted a lot of time. So I was walking up and down the concourse. I saw they actually have a California pizza company. Now I've gotten California pizza company pizzas from the grocer's freezer for years now. I was like, well, this will be pretty sweet. Get to have them fresh. So I pulled up and I ordered a margarita pizza and they brought it out. It was amazing. It was delicious. Had my margarita pizza, had my Sprite. It was a great day. So after that, I go to load up on the airplane. So I get out. I'm walking up to the gate that's printed on the ticket. And I go to, they're actually loading right at that point. So I was like, oh, sweet, right in time. So I go to load up on the plane. And they have two lines. Have one line for no carry-on and one line for carry-on. So I go and I get in a line with carry-on. And flying Frontier, let's say that one more time again. Frontier Airlines. These snakes, these scuzzards, charge you to take on a carry-on. Like, what? admitted, I haven't flown that much. I've only been on a plane like 4 times in my entire life. I thought that carry-on was just standard with everybody, but apparently not. Apparently at Frontier, it's not standard. Apparently at Frontier, it's an add-on. It's a perk. It's a miscellaneous item that you add to your ticket. So I was like, well, I have a carry-on. I can't just make it disappear. So I guess I'm going to have to pay the freaking fee. How much you guys want? $99. These bloodsuckers charging $99 for a carry-on bag. $99? I should have just went to security and got a full-size suitcase to send. I was like, well, you guys got me by the short hairs. I don't have any other option but to pay you $100 for my carry-on bag, which should be free because it's carry-on, you jerks. What was even more disheartening was there was an elderly lady who was right next to me in the next line, and she's fighting with the counter lady. Because she's like, well, I wasn't aware that there would be a carry-on fee. I'm on a fixed income. I don't have money to afford this. Some random guy who was in line actually volunteered to pay her luggage fee. So just some random guy, just because he was nice, went to cover the fee for her because Frontier are a bunch of blood-sucking scuzzards that they have to charge everybody for things that should just be standard. So anywho, so I get on the plane for that, and so we depart and we're off to Seattle. So a couple hours later, we land in Seattle. So I'm just trying to get the absolute cheapest trip possible. So I went to all these random fly-by-night companies to book all these things because I'm like, I just need to get here cheap, okay? And so that was really the first problem, is because I tried to go cheap, that there was all these issues. So the car company that I rented a car from is this company I've never even heard of before called Kite. And I guess it's a big city thing. So they don't have a desk or a counter or anything at the airport. They have a depot that's downtown. And so they have like gig workers, and they come and they deliver the car to you at the airport parking lot. And then they can just like get an Uber or something like that and go to their next their next thing. So anyway, so the guy comes, and I had it set for 5:30 p.m. for a pickup, and I was kind of stressing because it showed the plane was going to land at 5:05, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be cutting it short because, you know, it takes 15 minutes to disembark from a plane, if that, and to walk through everything. So anyway, the plane actually ended up landing at 4:45 or 4:40 or something like that. Maybe it was even closer to 4:30. It was ridiculously early. So I was like, holy cow, I'm going to be in a hard place. Again, there was a subway system at Seattle. The Seattle airport is obscenely large. So I took a subway through like 5 different concourses before I finally got to ground transportation. So I finally get up to the parking lot. I finally get up to where the person's supposed to be meeting me. I look at the app, and it says, you're not here yet. I was like, okay, whatever. I guess I'll just wait. And I wait. And finally, he calls, and he's like, oh, yeah, man, I'm on my way. I'm on my way, man. This traffic, this rush hour traffic. I'm like, whatever. I don't care. Just get here. So he finally gets here. It's like 6:15 or some nonsense like that, and he finally pulls up. I'm like, I got places to go, dude. I got a ticket to see Pedro the Lion play at Numos, where they were doing the full It's Hard to Find a Friend and Control set. So I was like, yeah, I got to get downtown for the show. He's like, man, you're going downtown? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you don't have to say yes, but I would be forever indebted to you if you would drive me back downtown and drop me off. I'm like, this trip is already zany enough as is. Sure, just pile in. So I'm driving to downtown Seattle with this random dude in my car. I'm like, I don't have any idea who this guy is. And this guy is like, by the way, in Seattle, don't go to Starbucks. That's what tourists do. And I'm like, I am a tourist. Why would I not go to Starbucks? so I'm a tourist. I'm not supposed to do tourist things. Well, what am I supposed to do? I get to there. I'm like 2 blocks away from Numos, and the guy's like, that's probably close enough. I'll go ahead and get out here. He just piles out at the stoplight and just starts walking down the sidewalk. I'm like, all right, whatever, dude. Your call. So I'm circling around the block a few times, and I find this primo parking place. We're talking like right across the street from the venue, so at least I had that going for me. So I was able to park there. So I go in for the show, and the doors hadn't opened yet, so I lined up with everybody outside, and basically the doors opened as soon as I got up in line. We get inside, and as soon as I walk in, there's like nobody inside. I'm like, where'd all these people go? And I look up, and apparently they went to the bar on the second floor. So I'm like, all right, well, all you guys are getting your alcohol on. I'm going to go stand here front row with premium seating, mind you. So I just went and stood front row. And that's probably the closest I've ever, well, I take it back. The very, very first time I ever saw Pedro Line, I was sitting front row, but I was sitting front row, like basically right in front of the speakers. So like way far, you know, to the edge. And this time I was just front row center, just right in front. So this is the closest I've ever been to a Pedro show. When I saw them in Oklahoma City in 2002, I was like second or third row, right in the middle. But so yeah, I was pretty stoked about that. So played show. Show was fantastic. Show was great. A fantastic set. Everybody's really dialed in, really tight. They didn't do much talking. Just played a blistering fast set of songs, one after the other. So it was pretty cool. So after the show was over, my next destination was a Bothell. Because I was looking, I was like, that was the cheapest. Well, I wouldn't say that was the cheapest hotel I could find, but that was the cheapest decent hotel I could find. I'm sure I could find some like, you know, heroin cocaine inn that was charging like, you know, $15 a night. But anyway, so I found a Holiday Inn in Bothell. So I was like, well, whatever, we'll go to the suburbs. I don't have any problem going to the suburbs. It'll be fine. So we go to Bothell to get the room. And so get the room all ready. So I'm like, well, I got some time. I'll lay here in bed and I'll watch SmackDown. So I watched SmackDown. It was a great show. And after that was over, I went to bed to wake up next morning. So they had continental breakfast, or whatever you want to call it. But the thing about this particular location, every Holiday Inn I've ever been to, you just make your own. With this one, they had a kitchen in the back, and they had like a dude who was sitting at the bar, and he took your order, and he goes to the back, and they prepare the order in the back, and then he brings it to your table. I was like, this is the most bizarre thing ever. Usually I just go and make a whole plate of waffles and bacon and call it a day. I got in the car. I was like, okay, it's time to go back to Seattle because I had some sightseeing I wanted to do. I wanted to see some locations of tooth and nail history. So I had some addresses for the offices and some other things like that, the past offices. And so I was like, oh, we'll check these out. So we go to Seattle, go, you know, straight part of Seattle downtown. So I put the car in park, get out, and that's when it dawned on me, this city is very mountainous. I'm gonna get a workout here. So I'm literally like scaling the mountainsides, walking down the street. And yeah, I definitely got a workout. Like my legs were on fire by the end of the trip. So I went by and visited the main tooth and nail offices that were featured in all the early VHS tapes. And so, of course, I couldn't get inside. I was hoping for some reason that the door would be broken or something. I could go up. But of course, the security, you know, whatever. So anyway, I took some pictures outside, took some video outside, whatever. And then went around the corner and saw the Pizza Pro was around the corner, and that was where Brandon and Chad had the fight over the sticker that was not included in Chad's order, presumably from years prior. So that's where they get in a fight out front. Took some pictures there, and then I went to Occidental Square, or Pioneer Square as it's called now, I think. And that's where Frodus was hanging out and shooting some video for that clip that's at the end of Tooth and Nail Tape Volume 4. And so I took some pictures and hung out there. And the Tooth and Nail store was somewhere in that area, but I'm an idiot and I forgot to write down what the address was, so I'm not 100% certain if I was looking at the right place or not. And then after that, I went to another office. It was off Government Way. And I went to another office that was in a really, really nice area of town. So you could definitely see that as the budget increases, so did the digs for the offices. So the third office I visited was a really nice upscale office. I'm like, ah, this must have been where they're at the peak of the EMI days. So yeah, I got to visit that on the outside at least, took some pictures and whatnot. And then after that, it was time to go to the show. Stopped by some pizza place and got some pizza on the way, and went to the coffee shop, Two Kit Coffee. So apparently I was under the impression it was going to be in, a coffee house. So I brought the tripod and I was like, there will probably be tables. And so I might be able to sit the tripod on top of one of the tables or, figure something out. I was wrong. It was, it was basically a converted, Jiffy Lube or a garage or what have you. And so two of the bays were where the coffee shop part was. So there was the main coffee bar, and then the second bay was just dedicated for seating. And the third bay was where they had instruments set up and bands could play. There's no stage or nothing. And there's no PA. I mean, there was a PA system for the microphone, but the instruments were not mic'd at all. So the instruments were just based on their actual volume. So, and then like the band is taking up, half the bay. And so if anybody's watching the band, they would be mostly sitting outside. And the way that this thing was positioned, it was facing to the west. So as the sun is setting, the sun is just beating right into where you would be standing. So that was fun. But yeah, so there was some band, localish band opened up. And then the new band from Mike and Greg from Crux, Teeth for Eyes, played. And they were pretty impressive. And then after them was Don't Know, which was the whole point of the whole trip. So Don't Know played a fantastic set. The Damier did the entire discography. They just did not do Power Tool Pete or Fine Time. But other than that, they did the entire discography. And I even managed to get the set list. So yeah, there's the set list.
shutting up.
So as I said, I've been a fan of the band since '97. I picked up their CD just because I was like, that is like the coolest artwork ever. It's just so wacky. And so I picked up this album just because of this artwork. I just thought it was so cool. And so picked it up, and I didn't know anything about them. What's really funny was, at the time, my favorite band at the time was Blenderhead. And I had no idea then, but now that I know that Dono and Blenderhead is basically the same band, it's just there's different vocalists for each. And so I didn't know that at the time, so I was like, holy cow, it's basically the same guys. And very different music style. I mean, Don't Know is a lot like Mr. Bungle or something like that, whereas Blenderhead was much more like Bad Religion, sort of. I mean, just, you know, frantic punk at that point. So anyway, yeah, so got to see them, them play all my favorite songs. So after the show, I stayed around and talked with everybody for like an hour or so until, you know, we were all just clearing out. And because I had to get back to the airport. So here's the thing. Kite, since they don't have a counter at the airport, they don't have a depot that you can go to. You can only pick up or release vehicles during their designated times. And this particular location, the latest drop-off or release that they would allow is 9:30 p.m. I couldn't do anything after that. My flight wasn't set to leave until 5 a.m., so I was like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna hang out at the airport all night long. No big deal, because I wanted to watch Money in the Bank anyway, so that it was fine. So I go to drop off the car, and of course the guy picking up the car was also late by about 30 minutes. So he finally shows up and he gets the car, and then off to the airport I go. So I'm walking into the airport, and so initially what I was just going to do is just go through security, present my boarding pass, present my ID, just go through a security check, and then just hang out. So I go to pull up my boarding pass. I don't have a boarding pass. So I'm looking in the app, and it says, we don't provide digital boarding passes for this airline, which was United. So I thought, okay, I guess I'm going to go to the counter then and have them print me a boarding pass. So I go to the counter, and I don't have a confirmation number or anything like that, so I had to actually look it up. So they look it up, they print me the boarding pass, and then she's like, oh, this boarding pass says carry-on luggage is not allowed. I'm like, what is the deal? Carry-on luggage is supposed to be standard. When did this change? What is wrong with all you airlines? When did this change? It's supposed to be standard. That's why you have carry-on, so you can carry it on. And so I said, well, can I just pay a fee or something like that? And she's like, no, it's just simply not allowed with your ticket. You didn't purchase a carry-on ticket. It's a completely different rate structure. So I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. How much? $30. Okay, fine, whatever. Just check the bag, get it out of here. So she prints me in a boarding pass, she puts a thing around the thing, she sends it off. So I go around to security, and I notice I'm looking at my boarding pass that the boarding pass only says Seattle to Denver. And I'm like, well, I'm not flying to Denver. So I go back, and I said, yeah, I think I'm supposed to have another boarding pass or something, because this only says Tulsa to Denver. And so they kind of look at a couple of things, and they're like, you should have two boarding passes. And I said, well, can you print out the other one? And they're like, no, we wouldn't be able to print out the other one because that's at another location. We can only print out Seattle boarding passes, which is a bunch of crap. We can only print out Seattle boarding passes. I was like, okay, well, whatever. I said, well, what about my luggage? As far as I can see, my luggage is flying to Denver and it's just going to stay there. And then they looked, and they're like, well, you already threw it on the conveyor belt. God only knows where it's at right now. I'm like, true, but it was literally 3 minutes ago. I turned a corner and came right back. And they're like, yeah, well, we still don't know where it is. So she calls over a manager, and the manager's looking at it, and the manager's like, wait, this is for tomorrow's flight, right? And this is the miracle of all miracles. I said, yeah, it's for tomorrow's flight. He said, we're not allowed to take luggage in between shifts. He said, like, our shift ends here at midnight and the next shift starts at 3:30. So we can't check in luggage tonight for a flight that's tomorrow morning. That's against policy. I'm like, well, don't blame me. That guy's the one who took it. So he had to call the luggage people and put a flag on it for it to flag the luggage. And he's like, all right, it's been flagged. It's going to pop out at baggage claim. So now I got to go all the way back to baggage claim. So I'm waiting for the thing to come out. And so I get it. So it finally spits out and I get my suitcase and I go back to the counter. I was like, okay, I got it. So if I can't drop it off tonight, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, well, you just come back tomorrow morning. I was like, okay, when are y'all open? And he says, we open at 3:30. I said, okay, so then I should come at, what, 3:30? And he's like, I would suggest you to come a little early. By 3:30, it's already going to be getting crazy. I was like, okay. So he said, yeah, just, I would suggest to get here by 3. I was like, okay, well, I'm already here anyway, so whatever. So at this point, it's about 11:45 at night. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to go through security. I'm going to hunker down for a few hours, watch Money in the Bank. As soon as I'm done with Money in the Bank, I'll just come right back to the line. It's like, I'm not going to watch the whole Money in the Bank because I'm just skipping all the packages and all the other garbage. And generally, with these WWE pay-per-views, there's about an hour's worth of nonsense, commercials, packages, recaps, and whatnot that's in there. So I was like, I should be able to shred through this thing in about 2 hours, 15 minutes. So I find a seat at the concourse, and so I hunker down with the iPad, get it started so I can watch Money in the Bank. So I got down with that. It was, as I said, it was probably about 2:30 when that went off. So I was like, okay, well, we can go ahead and go to the counter. So I get everything loaded up, and I start heading to the counter. And as soon as I get out to where the counter is, there's already like a line out the door. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I guess we're just going to sit here and wait. So I'm sitting in a line waiting. And so the line at 3:30, people get there and the line starts to move at a snail's pace. So we're going through this line. And I'm like, man, we've got to get this thing going. This is nuts. This is nuts. This is nuts. So I finally was helped at like 4:10 or 4:15. Keep in mind, it says the flight leaves at exactly 5 and the boarding ends, I believe it said at 4:45. So I'm like, we are cutting this extremely close. So that was when I was like, okay, I need to have this thing go to Tulsa because right now it says it's going to Denver. So she was able to find the correct locations and print my Denver boarding pass that allegedly they couldn't find, thanks United. So, yeah, she prints all the stuff and gets everything ready and sends me on my way. And that took about 10 minutes for her to do all that. So I think at this point it's like getting closer to like 4:30. So I turn around the corner to TSA, and the line it's like literally a roller coaster line. It's completely jam-packed. All the queues are jam-packed. I look up, and the sign's like, 22 minutes is your expected time. I'm like, oh my gosh, this can't be happening. This could not be happening. So, the line's moving constantly, so that was good, and we're just snaking through. As soon as I get to this one point, one of the TSA agents, she comes up and she's like, all right, we're starting a new line. And so she's grabbing people. So I just kind of do one of these numbers and just kind of start following people. And then she's like, all right, everybody line up over there. And I just kind of broke off because I was like, no, I'm going to jump the line right here. So I jumped the line, thankfully. So I basically just jumped the line right at the security check and went right in. And so, as soon as I get out, I'm just running down the concourse. We're talking Home Alone running down the concourse. Now, the problem is there's 2 concourses I had to go down, and each are like the size of 2.5 or 3 football fields. We're talking these things are colossally long because each concourse is the width of like 10 airplanes. So I'm running, hauling down this thing. And it was at that point when I realized I'm not as in good a shape as I thought I was. I completely just... It was about halfway down the first one. I was like, this isn't happening. I can't run. My body doesn't have the stamina to do this much running. It was like in Dark Souls, you just give up. So at that point, I'm just walking, kind of quickly walking. My heart's about to explode out of my chest. And just as I get up to the counter, they'd already shut the stupid door. Even though it's not 5 o'clock yet, but we've already gone past the point of boarding being done. And it was right about that point that the guy in front of me was giving the lady an earful. So I was like, okay, well, at least somebody's gonna bless her out and chew her out. So, yeah, she was... Now, here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. So, I get to the counter. She's like, okay, let's see. We need to get you to Denver and get you from Denver to Tulsa because they can't change the locations. They can't, like, reroute me to Vegas or to, you know, Idaho or something like that. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So she's looking and she found, she's like, okay, I got, keep in mind it's at 4:55 a.m. right now. She's like, all right, I got a flight that's scheduled to leave at 9:15. I'm like, all right, whatever, book it, lady. She's like, yeah, it's 9:15, but it looks like they're running a little bit late, but it shouldn't interfere with your next flight because the flight out of Denver will be leaving at about 6:15 a.m. So right now the flight is set to arrive at Denver at 12:30. So it essentially is going to have about a 6-hour layover. I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. So she's like, yeah, it's running a little bit late. So she prints out the ticket and then I just go to sit down. About 30 minutes later, I was like, oh, I'm going to check on how late this thing's running. So I go look at the board. The board says it's not going to leave until like 11:30. So I'm like, okay, hold on. So you're telling me I'm told I have to be boarded on the plane at 5 and I don't have the option to be late, but you guys have the option to be late. Y'all can be late all day long. Y'all can be late until 6 o'clock at night. Doesn't matter. But I, the customer, I have to be on time. But you, the company, you can just make your times up and do whatever you want. So apparently that's the system we're working with here. So as I'm sitting there waiting, the time is getting pushed back further and further and further and further and further. Further irritating me because I'm like, I tried to live by the rules. I was here since 9 o'clock last night. It was because of y'all's nonsense that even got me jacked up here in the first place. So finally, the plane didn't actually leave until like afternoon. I think it was like 12:45 when the plane finally left. Which was fine because that put me getting to Denver at, I think it was about 3. Which, again, was okay because that just minimized my layover in Denver. But, I would have much rather have been home by noon, which is when I was supposed to be home. So I finally arrive at Denver. I get out and Denver was... So I got out at gate 2. And the next plane left from gate 67. And it's just a long, long corridor. So I had... Well, there's one on each side. So I had 30 gates I had to run down just to get to the next gate. By the time I got there, my legs were about to explode. And it wasn't, I mean, I didn't have to run or nothing because I had all the time in the world. But it was just the sheer distance involved in having to walk that long. After all the walking I've done already this weekend, I was just ready to just blow up. Luckily, there was a Pizza Hut on the way, and so I stopped and got some more pizza, airport pizza. So that was fun. That was good. So at any rate, about an hour later, the flight boarded and got on and flew back to Tulsa and was coasting into town right as fireworks were going off because people don't believe in waiting until 4th of July here. They'll just pop them off for the entire week. So that was kind of cool to see fireworks going off and that kind of thing. But finally got home, took a quick nap, and then went to work. So yeah, there's my whole stupid Seattle trip. The entire trip was just so weird and wacky, which I guess is fitting because Don't Know is weird and wacky. But seeing them was so cool. I thought that I would never, ever, ever be able to see them play. And it wasn't one of those hokey reunions where it's like the singer and a bunch of randos that he got. I mean, it was literally all 4 guys. And they even had Ian dancing on stage, which, you know, he went on tour with them as their dancing guy. So it was cool that they even had him. I mean, it was like the full experience, you know. If you saw Don't Know on their one single tour in 1995, this was exactly that. Just, you know, 30 years later almost. But anyway, yeah, so that's my trip, and thanks for watching, and peace out.